This is a sound test for the Cambridge Joint Area Committee, which will start at 4 p.m. This meeting has been delayed and will begin at approximately 4:45.
Hi everyone, welcome to Cambridge Joint Area Committee. Massive apologies to members of the public who've had to wait for 40 minutes, but massive thanks to the councillors who've managed to come in at the last minute. It does at least show that as political parties we may differ, but when it actually matters we can get our act together and work together and get meetings running. So thank you for all being here. We're going to try and still get this meeting done. My aim is to get this meeting done by 6 o'clock out on schedule, so we don't run over. Both councils are filming and photography with their public meetings, so please feel free to take pictures or blog. Other social media is available. But could I request that mobile phones are put on silent or vibrate as appropriate? Would the Democratic Services Officer like to report any apologies for absence, please?
Thank you, Chair. There are apologies from Councillors Thornborough, Councillor Ashton and Councillor Howitt, and Councillor Goodliff is here as a substitute.
Does any member wish to declare any disclosable pecuniary interest or non-statutory disclosable interests? Councillor Beckett.
I don't think these are technically interests, but I just wanted to make it clear for the record that I submitted the LHI for Cowper Road, even though I'm not the councillor anymore, but I am the councillor for the Market Ward one.
Thank you very much. Any other councillors? I'm not seeing anyone indicating to speak. Item 2 on the agenda, we're asked to approve the minutes of the last committee meeting, which was held on the 11th of June. As an accurate record, can I ask whether any member disagrees with the accuracy of these minutes? I believe Councillor Robinson, you wish to make a point here.
Even with the concern.
I think, yeah.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Magic. Yeah, item 7 on the agenda was the Kest Road area scheme. I felt that there was it was not clear at the meeting exactly what the proposal meant with regard to the half-hour free parking in Willis Road. And it was confirmed that none of the existing 30-minute free parking bays would be removed. That's my memory. And therefore I felt that this should be recognised, because several of us actually voted on the basis that those parking bays would not be removed. Now this item is on the action log, so I'm suggesting that we just note my concern at this stage and then deal with it when we get to the action log.
Very happy to note the concern, Councillor Robertson. I think that's okay with officers. That my memory of the meeting is that the officers are offered to clarify to Councillor Robinson about the status of the parking bays, and I think that's what we've now got on the action log. So, if Councillor Robinson's happy, we'll proceed on that basis.
Yes.
Thank you. Right, Part B. Do any officers or members have comments on the minutes action log? I will also just wanted to highlight to the committee members that after the comments at the last meeting, you'll notice now a more detailed status of all the items in the action log, so it doesn't just say complete, not complete. It actually gives a reason for why, which is a response to Councillor Bajan's comments last time. I want to thank the officers for doing that, and thanks to Councillor Thornborough for her suggestion that she isn't here. Right. Give me a second. Yeah, sorry, just to add, thanks for the prompt, Nick. The action log last time did have we deferred the York Street resident parking scheme to the next meeting, which would have been this one. It has been, members will note that it's been taken off. There is a legal issue with the scheme, which has meant that officers advised that they needed to defer it to the next meeting, waiting for legal advice. That's why it's not on the agenda item this time. I don't have any further detail on that. We have got a number of public questions. We've got a total of 4, haven't we? 3. 3, okay. On my head I read 4, but it's fine. We have a number of public questions, which we'll do alongside each item. I'm going to jump away, just in the interest of time, to item 4, which is the traffic regulation order objections associated with the Wilberforce Road area residence parking scheme. Sorry, Councillor Beckett, do you want to put your mic on?
Sorry, I just wanted to let you know, Councillor Pora, by the way, wants to speak on the one of the other ones, but has to leave for another meeting by 5:25, just so you're aware. I'm hoping we can get...
Which item does she want to speak on?
On the Paradise, Grafton, and one of the other ones.
Right.
She's online.
Given the timings, and given we're 40 minutes late already, I'm going to suggest that I just use chair's discretion to Is she available now, do you know? Yes. I'm going to suggest we actually just redo the agenda if we're agreeable on the basis of where we are in the meeting. I'm just looking for just a consent from members of the committee, so we actually deal with what should be the third item first to allow Councillor Porra to speak. Councillor Goodliff.
Can I just check the actual residents who are here, who are ready to speak, as to which item they're speaking on? Because I think we should defer to the people who've given up their time and have been sat here in the room.
I think that's a very, very good point, Councillor Goodliff. Thank you. Just to explain to the residents, because we have a councillor who wants to speak on the third item, and she's only available to a certain amount of time, I'm just looking for some sort of indication from you about whether you're okay with us dealing with that third item first, which obviously means some of you, if you're expecting to speak first, might be hanging around a little bit longer than you intended. If you have an objection to that, please can you just indicate to me now? And I'm not seeing an objection to that. So thank you very much, Councillor, for your point. But we'll go to that third item first. So, we're on this one. So we're on item 6 of the agenda. That's sorry, I just realised I've looked at all the public speakers there. I didn't realise there was a public speaker there. It's okay, you're okay with that as well, yeah, thank you. She's on that. Okay, well, you're on the item, so that works. So could the officers briefly just introduce the report on the, Stephen, you're doing this one, aren't you, on the proposed waiting restrictions on Paradise Street, Grafton Street and St John Street.
Yeah, the report is about the proposed amendment of waiting restrictions on Paradise Street, Grafton Street, John Street. Streets in question are relatively narrow residential streets that are in close proximity to the Grafton Park Shopping Centre and indeed within walking distance of the town centre. Each street features resident parking bays on the southern end and single-year lines prohibiting daytime parking on the northern sides from Monday to Saturday. The proposal involves amending the singular line restrictions to operate on all days as some residents have raised concerns about obstructive footway parking on Sundays, impeding use of the footway, along with the ability for them to exit and enter their properties. Public consultation saw majority support from residents. However, objections have been received from churchgoers that make use of the area to attend the local church without charge. And some residents have voiced concerns about the ability to park on single lines on Sundays being the only day when they can do so without need for purchasing a visitor's permit or need to move their vehicle come the morning.
Stephen, sorry to interrupt. Is there any chance you could bring the mic slightly closer to you? I think some people are slightly struggling to hear. Thank you. Sorry.
That's okay. At what point do you want me to take over?
That's much better, thank you.
Okay, I mean, I've finished my spiel, so...
Just, you were indicating, are there any points that you wanted to... Right, thank you. So can we've got, and I'm incredibly sorry for not chunking the pronunciation of your name first, and I'm probably going to get it wrong, I'm really sorry, but is it Naya? Miss Naya Pollock, you've got 3 minutes to present your question. You'll get a traffic light indicator when you've got 30 seconds left. So if you'd like to speak.
In response to the proposal and the subsequent consultation responses, it's highlighted that the offence of driving on a footway will only be used in support of the proposal. There's no enforcement of this offence across the board due to accepted practice over decades, an offence that will continue every evening and overnight with current parking restrictions and will remain accepted. The outlining of other infringements of the footway, such as bikes and bins, again cannot be ignored because driving on the footway is an offence when breach of this offence is not enforced. Partial footway parking in the presence of marked bays is seen across the city, some of these streets being narrower than those within the proposal. The marking of bays makes no difference situationally, but means there is no offence being committed. This parking breaches many points in which this proposal is basing its validity upon, such as access for pedestrians, cycle safety and access for emergency vehicles, but is accepted as they are marked bays. This can be seen in Cockburn Street and many others in the surrounding area. In Benson Street, there is bilateral on-road parking with no marked footway parking, although the cars mount the footway as the space left for cars to pass is so minimal. No enforcement of footway parking is executed and the space remaining is so narrow it would impede access for larger and emergency vehicles. This can be said for many roads across the city. Residents and others affected by the proposal have differing opinions due to the level of impact and various other factors, but there has to be a fair and pragmatic application, not based on emotion or convenience to the loudest objector or supporter. Restrictions and offences highlighted cannot be used to support this proposal when they continue to be allowed and promoted across the city and even in the surrounding streets. There is a disconnect between enforcement and enactment of parking restrictions, therefore the authority is tacitly promoting this practice, and that is indicated by the lack of proactive enforcement by the council-appointed civil enforcement officers. The removal of 8 hours of parking can only be based on the emotion and want of the supporting parties. There is no evidence base and no statistics provided. It is confirmed in the responses that there are no incidents that have occurred to date, and as for accessibility, this cannot be something that is considered for 8 hours and is then forgotten. With the erosion of the shopping availability and the current state of the Grafton Centre, there is vastly reduced footfall into the area, and I believe the people utilising the Sunday parking for shopping are in the minority. I'm concerned that if the proposal is successful, residents will be a detriment. Availability of parking is a constant struggle. The proposal will require visitor permit use to increase, therefore further reducing the already minimal availability of residents' parking. Without unanimous support of this proposal, I believe there is no solid ground for this change in restrictions to be executed, and I would ask that these points presented are considered carefully, and I'd be happy to provide the photo evidence if required.
Thank you. Admirably timed. Stephen, would you like to respond to Ms Pollock's points, please?
Certainly. I think there's a multitude of sort of points that have been made. I think one of the main ones was in relation to, obviously, you've got footway parking that is present everywhere else in the city. These were our historical arrangements that, if we apply today's standards, we would no longer be implementing them, but they are allowed to continue as a matter of historical precedent. Obviously, with such a new arrangements, we have to apply the current standards, which is why I have to, or we treat it as if cars are only allowed, or permitted to park on the carriageway only, and we wouldn't allow them to park on the actual footway. Obviously, there are obstructions to the footway with the bins and bikes. I went down there today, noticed that. That's something which we'll have to deal with, but obviously it doesn't preclude from the fact that obviously there still is the offence being committed if we are to allow people parking there. There's also a difference between when there is a marked bay and it isn't. Obviously the effect is the same, but one is an authorised action and one is just members of the public making the decision that they should be able to do so. And so there's a difference in that sense. I'm trying to think of the other questions, if I'm honest, but maybe I can defer back if she wants to make any other points.
Happy to do that with discretion if you wanted to sort of seek any further clarification. I'll also ask members if any members here of the committee want to seek points of clarification of the public speaker in a minute, but Stephen, if you wanted to, sorry, Naya, if you wanted to follow up at all.
Just in regards to you saying it's historically accepted with the footway parking across the city, so that's accepted in that area, but you're proposing to change it. So if there's no change, then it would still be accepted as it is around the city.
Not quite, because in this situation it is just a case of, we accept that obviously there are people that are parking on the footway in that area, but it's not, we haven't put any parked bay, actual bays there legally permitting them to do so. It's just an action that people do undertake. Obviously there is always a risk that at any point, anyone that does decide to park on the footway can be enforced against, but that would have to be carried out by the police themselves, not by any of our enforcement officers, which is likely why no enforcement is carried out so far. But should any event happen and some obstruction be noted, the police at any point can come in and enforce against it.
And I'll just make the comment, I don't want to speak for Councillor Beckett, but I know this is something, I understand what the point you're making, and I think there's a slightly policy question there around, there's not really a technical question for officers, and maybe it's a question, I think that perhaps Councillor Beckett and I could follow up with you afterwards or after this meeting at some point, because I don't know if you want to say anything. Yeah, yeah, you're well. I invite you to make your speeches in the actual, well, in fact, you're next, Councillor Beckett, because you are the local member, so.
Reserve my right to speak later. I'll let Ken.
Mike.
I'll reserve and speak later in the debate, but I'll let Councillor Porrer go first, because I think she has.
I think we've got 4 speakers, all of whom are the Market Ward councillors, funnily enough. Councillor Porrer, just because of the time, I'll invite you to speak first, if that's all right. I'm sure you're aware you've got 5 minutes. If you can get it under 5 minutes, that would be great, given the time, and thank you for waiting.
Thank you very much, Chair. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Brilliant. Apologies, I've got a meeting in South Cam, so I'm sitting in a very big room all on my own. So I just wanted to speak as one of the ward councillors. I'm speaking on behalf of the 3 of us, Councillor Vic Martinelli and myself. Obviously, we put this bid in quite some time ago. I think I absolutely understand the points the residents making, but on the Sundays, we have this huge pressure for people to obtain free parking. It is normally, I think, for people coming into the centre. So what you'll see in the day is it's parked so closely, whereas in the evenings, obviously I accept the residents' point, but it tends to be much more considerate parking because people are parking outside their own or their neighbours' houses and leaving gaps. But what you'll see on a Sunday is literally cars so close that people can't get out of their front doors. We have a very mixed ward. So we have a lot of younger people, we have a lot of cyclists, we also have a lot of elderly residents who've lived there for many, many years. And it is absolutely impossible to walk up those streets with the cars parked so closely. And again, because people are wanting to get in their free parking spaces, there's often not even room between the 2 cars to get in and out. I mean, I've obviously delivered leaflets around there. It's really hard to do that on a Sunday. You have to go in and out onto the roadway, and it's really challenging, particularly for the residents who do have mobility aids. So I think for me, as I put in my statement previously, this does outweigh the other concerns, because we can't have a situation where residents are stuck in their own houses for hours and hours and not able to access, well, the street. I do take the point, bikes and bins definitely need tidying up. We're very, very happy, and we've been working with the Waste Service and Enforcement Office to try and make sure people do not leave their bins out unless it's bin day. But I think for me, the balance is in favour of this TRO being extended to Sundays 9 to 5, because it will allow the residents, and it supports accessible transport, pedestrians. You know, we have really good bus links into the centre, we have really good walking ways, we have great cycle routes. So there are alternatives, and there's lots and lots of parking nearby, obviously paid for. But if we don't do this, we're meaning that our streets just remain blocked off to the residents who actually live in those houses, particularly those with protected characteristics. So if you're trying to get a pram or a walking frame or a wheelchair, you cannot get out of your house, or if you're just walking up the street, you have to cross the road to do that. Thank you very much, Chair. I hope I've come in under 5 minutes.
As the chairman of the County Council once said to me, that was admirably brief. Do I have any speakers from the committee, given Councillor Beckett has reserved his right to speak at the end? Councillor Robinson.
Just to say, I very much support this proposal. It's well overdue.
Also admirably brief. Anyone else on the committee? Councillor Beckett, I'm not seeing anyone else, so we'll go to you.
Cool, thank you very much. And thank you, is it Naya? Naya, thank you for coming along. And you make some really good points about pavement parking in general. I mean, it is a constant frustration with people parking in ways that they shouldn't across the city. And when you say about enforcement, one of the weird things is that pavement parking is not an offence outside of London. And around here, the people that enforce driving on the pavement, as far as I understand it, officers nod at me, is the police, who don't enforce any of it. So that's why we have an issue there. There was actually a consultation done by central government, I think it was 3 or 4 years ago now, on pavement parking, and we're still looking at banning it nationally, but we're still waiting on government to actually release the results of that one. The new Labour government has now committed to doing that, so I hope they do at some point soon, so we can find out what comes from that, because it is very weird that we have this really confused situation. And I don't think Councillor Bajent is here anymore, but he will very much tell you about the situation in Romsey with pavement parking and what issues that creates. And the GCP is currently looking at doing a residence parking scheme there, and that's causing problems because the width isn't sufficient to allow it to do that when there's currently pavement parking, all sorts of issues that go on with that one. So I totally understand it, and I really see your concerns. I think I've spent a lot of time door knocking in your area, and I don't think I've met you previously, but I've gone all the way down the streets knocking on doors and listening to different people. People do have different opinions. There is a mixed opinion. The majority of people I meet support this, though. the big thing that comes back to me is it's banned Monday to Saturday. So why is Sunday different from Monday to Saturday? And that's the logic that I come back to anytime. I can't quite understand why the logic is that you shouldn't be able to park there Monday to Saturday, but Sunday should suddenly be allowed. And I do hear a lot of concerns from residents about the issues that are caused by this. Problems with getting through, problems with being able to get into parking spaces, and it does cause frustrations the other way. So I totally understand this won't please everybody, and I hope that we can look at other things further to try and address things, but I do support this on balance, having spoken to as many possible residents as I can in the area. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Beckett. And any other speakers on this item before we move to a vote on the recommendation? No. So can we move to a vote on the recommendation, which is recommended the Executive Director of Place and Sustainability, in consultation with the local member, approves the implementation of the weighting restriction amendments as advertised. Mr. Mills, would you like to do the honours? Yeah, let's just do the vote.
Okay, could I ask for those in favour of the recommendations, please? No. That's unanimous, Chair.
Thank you very much. That's passed. So we're now going to jump back to item 4 on the agenda, which is the traffic regulation order objections associated with the introduction of the Wilberforce Road area residence parking scheme. I believe this the report's going to be produced by you, Gary. Would you like to just briefly introduce it?
Yeah, I'll be brief given the time constraints. So this one is to consider objections and other feedback on the proposed residential parking scheme in the Wilberforce Road area. That covers roads sort of to the west of Grange Road, south of Madingley Road, and sort of north of Barton Road. It would introduce permit parking on all days between 9 AM and 3:30 in the roads in the zone. It also includes some short stay pay and display parking in Wilberforce Road and Clarkson Road to cater for visitors. So we published the required notice. We got 33 responses in total. There were 18 objections, 12 support and 3 neutral, which is a relatively low response rate really for a scheme of that size. The main issues that have been raised by people are covered in the report, so I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to have Paul MacArthur here. Paul, would you like to find I don't know if an officer can advise, so you're speaking on behalf of North Newnham Residents Association?
I think you'll need to move the other mic.
Yeah. Just swap them around. Yeah, that will confuse the City Council next time. So you're speaking on behalf of North Newnham Residents Association?
Yes, that's right.
So you've got 3 minutes to present your questions and points, and the traffic light indicator will go amber when you've got 30 seconds left. So.
I'll keep it brief, as everybody else has done so far this
Excellent.
afternoon. Yes, so from the North Newnham Residents Association point of view, it's been well received and almost unanimously supported. It has, over recent years, and the reason why we're supporting it is it's become apparent that being one of the closest areas to the city centre, that it is the only place now where there is free parking, and it's converted all streets into effectively single lane streets with there's many cyclists along this area as well, and although we've supported fully, there are 1 or 2 issues with the design, in particular sight lines. The main area of concern is the sight line at Status Lane, which is the road off Wilberforce Road going to the tennis courts. Both roads are now, well, Status Lane is a single track road, and with the current scheme, the ability for vehicles to drive into and drive out of Stacey Lane has proved quite troublesome, and there was an accident there, albeit a minor one recently. But coming out of Stacey Lane onto Wilberforce Road, the biggest concern is for the safety of cyclists and more recently the prevalence of scooters. So we'd like the designers to have a closer look, in particular at Status Lane. And there are some other
areas where the safety is of some concern. Outside number 17, Wilberforce Road, 15 Wilberforce Road, 20 Wilberforce Road, and I think 22 Clarkson Road. So this could be looked at. The other area where we want some clarification is Bulstrode Gardens, which we understand is a private road, and we want to know how, if there's residents parking there, whether this is appropriate if it's a private road.
Apologies, we forgot to turn the traffic light monitor on, but I think you're probably near the end of the
But I think those are
time.
the two main, on behalf of North Newman Residents Association, we support it, but we'd like you to take a closer look at the design and also Bulstrode Gardens as a private road.
Thank you very much. Gary, would you like to respond?
Yeah, the issue around Wilberforce Road and Stacey Lane, that was raised by a few people and it was covered in the report. And we did say that we would have another look at that because it clearly is, when you've got parked cars both sides of Stacey Lane, it is quite difficult for people emerging to see. So we're going to ask the designers to have another look at that one. And the other ones that were raised, we could do that at the same time. To be honest with you, Bulstrode Gardens, I'm not that familiar with it. Generally speaking, if a road is private, then it's not, the houses within it are not eligible for permits because normally they've got off-road parking of their own. But I'd need to sort of double check on that because I don't know it off the top of my head, to be honest.
Thanks very much, Gary. I would note, just to the speaker, that obviously the actual recommendation is to recommend to go ahead in consultation with your local member. And your local member is here, and I would invite Councillor Rees to speak on this if you wanted to at this point.
Thanks. I think I'm keen to hear what other public questions residents have to say first, and I can come in later on, if that's all right.
Yeah, there aren't any other public speakers, but you're happy to, if you want to reserve and see what other members of the committee want to go first, then yeah, do I have any speakers from the rest of the committee? I'm not seeing anyone, so Councillor Rees, I'm afraid the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. Well, thank you, Paul MacArthur from North Newman Residents Association. Just to summarise from my position, I'm County Councillor for Newnham, where this scheme is taking place. So I understand it that main aim for this scheme is to encourage the use of public transport, reduce congestion in the area and active travel. So this is making the area safer for pedestrians and cyclists, pedestrians being number one priority on our highway code. And from the consultation which was conducted last year, there were over 60% in favour, as I understand it. Correct me if I'm wrong about that, but so there seems to be on balance support from the community, especially from residents for this scheme. However, as we've just heard, there are some objections, and I think these objections are really important. They're a learning opportunity for us. How can we implement, if it is voted through, this scheme as effectively as possible, especially from a road safety point of view? So several of these objections have noted the location of particular parking bays would be unsuitable or not safe, line of sight or blocking thoroughfares and so on. So there's that consideration. So also the location of some of the parking permit areas that we've just heard as well. So my position is that I support this, and I think that we just need to have that assurance. So please, for the minutes, I support it, but with the assurance that there will be flexibility so that whatever is implemented, we can return to the map and change just the location of some of the parking bays, and as we've discussed. So please, can you note that in the minutes? Thank you.
I think the officers will correct me if they want to, but I think adjusting locations of parking bays might be difficult in legal terms. I'm sure you can give some assurances, though, to the local member along the lines of flexibility, though.
Yeah, if it's a relatively modest change, we can do that without republishing the TRO, yeah. I mean, if it's something more substantial, you could do it potentially with like a mini consultation with the people that are directly affected by it. But if it's like we talked before about Wilberforce Road and Stacey Lane, if that was only to sort of shorten bays by maybe 4 or 5 metres, something like that on both sides, that would be something that would be very minor. And we would just kind of do that without any further consultation, given the fact that we've had quite a few people that have asked for us to look again at that. So I don't think there would be any implications with doing those minor changes like that.
Thanks, Gary. Councillor Rees, I think we've got noted for the minutes your concerns. Are you happy to?
Thanks, yeah, I'm happy with that. Yeah, it's really just several objections are, for Stacey Lane, for instance, removing one parking bay. So if I understand that that's the sort of change that would be feasible, then that's the flexibility is possible, then that, I'm happy with that.
I've got Councillor Robinson wanting to speak, and then Councillor Tongue.
Yes, I've been in touch with some of the residents and the North residents in particular, and there's a few issues I want to raise. Firstly, on the key to the maps, there is no mention of what the yellow line means, one yellow line. There's the whole of Adams Road, for instance, got one yellow line on either side of the street. Can we have clarification what that actually means? Because it's not in the key to the maps. And secondly, on the key to the maps, there's an item called, fourth one down, is orange lines between denoting bays. And it says proposed Monday to Sunday, 3 to 3:30, 9 to 3:30. Hour, no return. Does that mean 1 hour and no return within 1 hour? I think there's something missing there. It didn't fully explain itself. So those are the two queries I have on that. Then I've got some issues on particular places in the area. Do you want to deal with those first?
Thanks, Councillor Robinson. I was just going to invite Councillor Tongue. Is your point a sort of a clarification one as well? Okay, we'll do we could do Councillor Robinson's point first then. So it's the question of the yellow, what the yellow line means and the orange lines. We could just clarify those, please.
Mostly within this area, you're going to have either bays that are, mostly there'll be resident permit holder bays, but there will be some short stay pay and display bays. There'll also be yellow lines. Generally, that will be double yellow lines, so no waiting at any time. If there's gaps, they will generally be across people's driveways, because people generally prefer their driveways to be unmarked so that they've got the flexibility to be able to park across their own driveway, unless it's close to a junction or on a bend. So I'm sorry if the drawing was a bit confusing. I haven't got it in front of me now, but generally speaking, if there are yellow lines shown on the drawings, they will be, in reality, double yellow lines that prohibit parking at all times.
Councillor Robinson, are you happy with that response?
Oh, I don't really. It's something you need to work harder on, because there are other. It says on the plan on the key, it talks about double yellow lines existing and double yellow lines proposed. So really, I think if the existing ones should really be marked and keyed properly. It's not really on otherwise. It doesn't help us understand what the map's all about. Going on to other issues, the Stacey Lane issue, that's been addressed. I think it's clear that one does need to be widened, and that's already on the case on that. However, there are many places where the residents will have difficulty driving out of their drives between the parked cars out onto the street, because the parked cars are allowed to be so close to the turning from the person's drive. And I would ask the officers to try and change the standard design so when they're actually painting on the road, so there is a wider gap outside people's drives. Because in this area, there's lots of space for parking. There will be lots of space for parking once the commuters have moved out, and it's not going to be helpful to the people driving out of their drives if they can't actually see properly when they come out. So it's a request for the process to be adopted so that there's a wider gap in each case. That is something that the residents have pointed out. Their other main concern was that they could end up with a single track down the road, the same as it is now, because in many places parking is proposed on both sides of the roads, whereas when they were first consulted, they suggested that would be not a good idea. However, I think the suggestion is, let's go ahead with the scheme as it is, and if there are problems, have the 6-monthly review pick up those issues But I do want it recorded now that there is a concern that we could end up with two parked cars opposite each other and only one lane in between. And that's not ideal, obviously. That wouldn't have happened in Adams
I think
Road,
you've made your
both
point very
sides.
well, Councillor Robinson.
Sorry?
I think you've made your point very well, Councillor Robinson.
Okay. One last point, Bulstrode Gardens. Now, that is a private road, but it is mentioned in the report as a street in the area. And I think we should make a note and agree that in this meeting, that although they're listed as being in the area, they will not be part of the scheme. They will not be eligible for residence parking ticket permits, because otherwise they will be allowed to buy a permit and park anywhere in the area. And that should not be appropriate to a private road. So if we can make clear that road is not part of the scheme, they're not eligible for visitor or their own cars permits, and that will clarify it. Is that confirmed by?
I think that's confirmed by the officers, I believe.
Yeah, we've just checked and it is outside of the scheme, yeah.
Thank you very much, Councillor.
It's only
Robinson.
because it's actually listed as a street in the area.
Yeah, I think we understand your point, and you've made it very well, Councillor Robinson. Councillor Tongue, would you like to?
I'll try and keep my comments brief. I came to this meeting with very positive feelings about this application. However, I am really happy and even more reassured to hear that work is going to be done to fine-tune in places, because it is really important that we cooperate with residents who have knowledge of the area on projects like this. Because if we're trying to make Cambridge a more pleasant place for pedestrians and cyclists, it's essential we bring people with us. And that is sometimes going to take changes and tweaking based on what is most appropriate for people. So I just wanted to thank officers for that.
I've already used this shape before, but admirably brief. I don't see any other speakers from Councillor Machini. Oh, no, that was an anti-speaker, right, okay. So we'll move to the recommendation. Recommended that the Executive Director of Place and Sustainability, in consultation with the local member, approves the implementation of the Wilberforce Road area resident parking scheme as published. We'll just do a quick vote, Nick, if that's all right.
Okay, for those in favour of the recommendations, please.
Thank you very much. That's passed. So moving to item 5 now, which is the proposed loading restrictions on Cowper Road. Gary, I think this is you again.
Yeah, okay, so this one's Cowper Road. This is a local highway improvement scheme, as Councillor Beckett sort of earlier suggested. It would add no loading at any time to the existing existing WO lines. At the moment, you've got WO lines coming from Cherry Hinton Road, a relatively short distance, about 20 metres into Cowper Road. And just the existing WO lines, as I say, would be backed up by no loading any time. That's the little curb marks. That's to address issues around, you know, short stay and long stay parking on that. Well, short stay parking because there isn't long stay parking because of the WO lines. So on that one, we got, excuse me, 32 responses in total, 10 objections and 22 in support. There was a few issues raised, such as adverse effect on businesses and displacement further into Cowper Road. One or two other issues were raised and they're sort of covered in the report.
Thank you very much. We did have Councillor Young down to speak, but we... public questions, yes. Very good. Apologies. We've got Gary Woolley from... Yeah, if you want to probably just do the same things before and get the mic that's working, if we could just shuffle around. So I believe you're speaking on behalf of Cowper Road Residents Group, and you've got 3 minutes and the traffic lights will go on, and it will go amber when you've got 30 seconds left, so please go ahead.
Thank you. I've lived in Cowper Road for 31 years, very close to the junction with Cherry Hinton Road. It's always been an issue. It's not unusual to see several people get out of the cars with Adam Brooks badges on, and they get their Brampton bikes out and cycle. So it's a very close free parking area. There's no on-street parking on Cherry Hinton Road for the houses that are immediately around there. And something I just did as I got on the bus, I counted the number of businesses. There are 11 businesses that attract people within 50 metres of the junction. There are 11 parking spaces on Cherry Hinton Road. So I don't need to make that point. It's a problem. In the last 2 years, it's got substantially worse, the problem, and incredibly dangerous, I have to say. The economic activity in the area has increased, specifically with one business that is running a substantial wholesale business from the back of the shop. This has caused lots of very dangerous car manoeuvring. Backing out onto Cherry Hinton Road, we've seen lots of very dangerous issues. We, as residents, also have noted there's very few visits by parking enforcement officers anymore, so it's not short stay parking. It's not unusual to see somebody on the yellow lines for an hour or two with nothing happening. Ms Farrar, which I'm speaking on behalf of really, she compiled a substantial list of dangerous vehicular activity on the road, I think it's an accident waiting to happen. I'd just like to quickly recount a couple of my own experiences. One evening this spring, I noticed cars were parked on Cowper Road on both sides to within a metre of Cherry Hinton Road. So that was over the dropped curb for people with disabilities and crossing. I watched a lady in a mobility scooter come up, was unable to cross the road, went back up the road to the pedestrian crossing, pressed the light to go red. When it went red, she went out onto the main road, down the road until she could get back on. So incredibly dangerous. And something that has happened to me very frequently is turning into Cowper Road. They'll be parked right up to the edge, making it a single lane. And one night I had to reverse back out in rush hour onto Cherry Hinton Road to allow a car coming up the other way. It's a situation that needs something to happen because there's going to be a very serious accident.
If you could just bring, sorry to be harsh, but if you could just bring your remarks to a close, that would be all right. Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much for your contribution, though. We did have Councillor Young down to speak, but we've not been able to get hold of her, so she won't be speaking, obviously, because she's not here.
She told me somebody was going to read it out on her behalf. I can read it.
Fortunately, we don't have anything. Councillor Beckett, who was...
I've got a copy of it, yeah.
Councillor Beckett was the local member at the time of the scheme being submitted, so he may want to speak on this, but I was just going to make a brief comment to say about enforcement. It's worth talking to Councillor Young about contacting the parking enforcement officers, because we can, as local members,
It used to be very regular.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we can't say go here at a certain time, but we can make
now.
requests. Sorry, did you want to...
Yeah, one of my other areas is parking enforcement, and if you make contact through the website of particular issues, we do use that intelligence to direct civil parking enforcement officers. The one thing will be with the loading restriction there, rather than the double yellow lines, that the observation period is reduced. I believe it's down to 5 minutes in some cases. So the people who are sort of popping in and thinking, that's okay, nobody will be here, 5 minutes, we will be able to ticket them, so that enforcement would increase if we have the officers there. So, yeah, please put any, I say that to anybody, any issues with parking, please put it back to the team. And we do use that intelligence to direct resources where it's needed. Thank you.
So we'll move to the debate on the item now. I had Councillor Goodliffe waiting to want to speak.
It was just about the loading period and waiting on double yellow lines. It's not the only place I know of where this is a huge issue. We have particular areas in Cherry Hinton as well where double yellow lines, because of the loading period, double yellow lines are seen as where you can park as long as you're popping into a shop. So it's not enough to just have double yellow lines. Without the double blips, even when enforcement officers are there, they can't ticket in the time.
Thank you. Councillor Becker, had you indicated you wanted to speak?
Thank you very much, and thank you for coming along. As I mentioned earlier, I submitted this LHI, so you can probably guess that I do support it. You are completely right about the issues. There's some issues with the grocery stores there, and that has introduced a lot more people coming and waiting. And Richard, we've worked a lot with parking services to try and get them to come down, and parking services have come down quite a lot to be able to ticket people. The problem is it's often that 5-minute window where they'll be noticing it and then be able to move on as well, which is really, really problematic. And it does lead to some quite serious safety concerns. I've noticed working with residents, I've spent quite a lot of time down there myself, seeing it, observing it, trying to work out what to do, because I was previously the county councillor for there. So yeah, I very much support this. I understand that it will be problematic for some people visiting the shops, but I think we do have to prioritise safety first. And I think that does fundamentally have to be our priority on this one. So I do support this, and thank you for coming along, and thank you for going through.
Thank you, Councillor Beckett. I had Councillor Griffin.
Thank you. And I'd like to thank Councillor Beckett for submitting this proposal. This has been a problem for several years and beyond. But I would like to just, for the record, say that the community really appreciates this, this grocery store. I mean, it's an important contribution to the community, and so there were some objections there that were concerned about the impact on the grocery store, and there may be some, but I think the real problem is there's a wholesale business being run out of the back of the store, and I think that's where most of the traffic problems are coming from, the loading and unloading for that wholesale business. So I'm hoping that the owners will think about perhaps moving that to a more appropriate location. And so I think there'll be plenty of room for loading and unloading for the grocery store itself, if that is done. So I just wanted to go on the record, because I know there has been some sort of, there's been some, let's say, some harassment of the owners of the grocery store. And I want to make it clear that we really don't like to see that sort of thing, and we don't tolerate that sort of thing. And the grocery store is a much appreciated service in the neighborhood.
Thank you. I'm sure they'll appreciate your support as well. Councillor Robinson next.
I was mainly concerned to make sure Councillor Griffin was going to speak, because as he's mentioned in the report, he has done an awful lot of work to make sure that the local area know about this problem and know about the potential for changing it. I certainly welcome the proposals.
Thank you very much. Councillor Tongue, over to you last.
Hello, I wanted to just give my thoughts and say that I think this really does address quite a significant problem in the area. Again, we need to encourage more people to walk and cycle, and trying to reduce safety concerns like this is how we get more people comfortable going out. However, I am really happy to hear work is being done talking to the owners of this impacted grocery store, because I think, unfortunately, a lot of businesses do feel reliant on their cars and vans to actually conduct their business, which we rely on every day. And it's really important the people that provide these important services to the community don't feel like they're being pushed out. So great to hear that we're doing work, and hopefully we can continue cooperating them to make sure these changes work both for residents who want to use these shops, but also the shopkeepers themselves.
Thank you very much. Any other members of the committee wanting to speak? I'm not seeing anyone, so we'll move to the recommendation, which is to recommend the Executive Director of Place and Sustainability, in consultation with the local member, approves the implementation of the loading restrictions as published. Nick, can you do a quick vote?
Yep. Could I ask for those in favour of the recommendation? That's unanimous, Chair.
So it's passed. So the final item on the agenda is the agenda plan. Are there any updates to the agenda plan from officers? I'm seeing...
Can I just point out?
Yeah,
that
so Richard, Councillor Robinson,
the
I'm just
action
asking
log has
officers
not been
first
dealt
if there are any
with yet.
updates, and then we'll do comments from members. So I'm not seeing any updates from officers. Any comments on the agenda plan from members? And I'm seeing Councillor Robinson and then Councillor Machini.
I was just drawing your attention to the fact that the action log has not been dealt with yet.
Sorry, can you clarify what you mean by not being dealt with?
We haven't discussed it. The action log was the first item on the agenda. So I
No,
thought
we
we'd
did
gone past-
do that because I did note that we updated the action log to include detailed status notes, and I think I've got agreement from several councillors about that. So
I'm
Councillor
sorry if I
Machini.
missed it, but I thought that you had gone on to deal with items where there were speakers to speak.
I
realise
can
you addressed
assure you
it
we did
completely.
deal with it, Councillor Robinson.
Can I just make a comment to add to it?
Well,
then?
can I move to Councillor Machini's point first, because it's also the substantive item we're talking about now.
Hello, sorry, I just wanted, at the risk of bringing up something that isn't on the agenda plan, but I did wonder when we were going to see the Milton Road residence parking scheme come back, because I haven't had an update since July last year, which is when we agreed we would have a 6-month review, which I was kind of hoping you had.
Sorry,
started by now.
to interrupt you, Councillor Machini. Do you mean the Milton RPS scheme, or do you mean the York Street one?
The Cross Milton Road, Asham and the other.
So
you know
that
which one I mean.
that won't be coming back. It's at the implementation stage. I can happily talk to you about it outside of this if you want an update.
Can we get an update on how we act, how we see the results of the 6-month review? That's what I'm interested in. I mean, if it doesn't come back, then hopefully we can share a briefing or something.
I think that's a general point about, I mean, I think we could add something to the agenda plan for how we get updates about 6 months reviews in general, possibly. That
I
would
mean,
be.
I don't want it necessarily back if it's not supposed to be back. I thought it was, but essentially just to see how the implementation is going.
So, thank you, Chair. I'm not sure if there's an intention to bring it back to a committee meeting following the review, but the officers, I'm sure, will be able to provide an update or a briefing once the review's been
Can I suggest as Chair that we could add something to the agenda plan to discuss for Chair and Vice Chair to work out whether 6-month reviews come back to this committee, whether they go to Highways and Transport, just in general how they are dealt with. And I think that would be, the answer to that might be, it doesn't come out to this committee, but I think an answer would be, good for clarification. Do you want to make a comment, sir?
Yeah, I believe that scheme is starting to be implemented mid-October. So it'll be starting soon. They'll be subject to a 6-month review, but I think it's to be determined where the outcome, as Chair says, for that 6 months.
I mean, as the local member, I can talk a lot about that scheme, but and I would be very wary about giving any dates out in public. But I think the point about what happens to 6-month reviews is very well made. Councillor Tongue, you allocated. Do you want to make a comment on the agenda plan?
Yes, this is related to the agenda plan, but also touches on something I missed, which was something in the minutes, and these are quite connected. Apologies for straying slightly. But in the minutes, it references the fact that last time long-standing requests for agenda items were brought up. And I tried to remind myself about what was specifically brought up. I tried to look for a recording online. I couldn't find one. May have been in the wrong place. But I was wondering, do we know what items people had suggested? I remembered Councillor Bajan had something about Mill Road, and it would be great to finally get that on this plan and actually see some action on those.
Yeah, I'm obviously very grateful for you turning up in a hurry. I think you possibly missed the very beginning of the meeting where I did, yeah, thank you. One of the things that Vice Chair and I took away from last time was Councillor Bajan's point. You'll note that the agenda plan now has an extra column in it where it actually has the specific, rather than just saying actioned or not actioned, it gives a detail about the status of that item, which was specifically designed to address the answer to your question, basically, which is why is this thing not being dealt with? So Councillor Robinson, just before we finish, did you want to make a quick comment about the minutes I've allowed Councillor Tongue to, so I feel it's fair to allow you to as well?
Yes, referring to the last item on the action log, which is the matter of Willis Road, which we said we would just come back to.
Sorry, bear with me because my laptop's died, so I'm just having to ask Nick to bring up the last item.
Guest row, the guest row.
This is your question about the bays. We did
Yeah.
address that at the beginning of the meeting. We noted that you had sought that assurance, and the officers will be coming back to you with that. So I do think we have dealt with that, and we have noted your concerns with the scheme from last time.
I think that, again, for the 6-month review, you need to recognise that I think a mistake was made in informing me wrongly by email some time before the meeting that there was going to be no change there, but in fact there was a change. So it's just my concern to make sure that we get it right in the long run, that there should be free parking for half an hour in that area, partly to stop people parking on the pavement of Mill Road. If you take away their free parking, then it's an incentive to use the pavement for park, which is not a good idea.
I think, can I suggest, I think your concerns are very well noted, and I'm sure they've been minuted by Nick. And I think we can probably, unless there are any other comments from other members, I think we finished the agenda now, and I think we can close the meeting if not seeing any objections. So thanks very much for coming, and to the public speaker who's still here. Yeah, thank you very much, everyone.